Hello, it's the Rice Force here, back at you with another video. And today I'm going to go over a Bible character. It's pretty much Jacob, basically. But I'm pretty much going to point out why he's more related to his family than you think. Why he's more related to his wives than you think. So pretty much, Jacob, he married his cousins, Rachel and Leah, and had kids with them, along with some two other women that weren't related to him. But these two were related to him on his mom's side. But not just on his mom's side, they're also related to him on his dad's side. So yes, we are going to go over this. So it starts out with Terah. So this would be Jacob's, depending on what side of family you're looking at. On his dad's side, this would be his great-grandfather. But on his mom's side, this would be his great-great-grandfather. So Sarah and Abraham. Abraham did say that Sarah was pretty much his sister on his dad's side, but not on his mom's side. So apparently they had different mothers. And they got married. Yeah, it's pretty weird for a brother and sister to get married. Were they sinning when they were doing this? No, they weren't sinning when they were doing this. Of course, Haran had a son named Lot, and we know the story. He also had like two sons with two of his daughters. So I'm just pointing that out. So there's a lot of incest in this family, man. But to be honest with you, these people weren't really sinning. You know why? Because there was nowhere in the Bible that said you couldn't have sex with your brother or sister. You couldn't have sex with your father or your mother. It wasn't in the Bible at this point. There was no Bible back then. Obviously, later on in the Bible, we do see that God made rules that you couldn't sleep with your brother or your sister. You couldn't sleep with your father, your mother, aunts, uncles, and all that. That wasn't in the Bible until long after these people had passed away already. So no, they weren't really sinning. So back then, I guess it was okay to marry your half sister. And they had a kid named Isaac. But here's where it gets interesting. Isaac had a cousin named Bethuel. I'm just going to call him Bethuel. Is it Bethuel? Let's call him Beth. We'll call him Beth. So Isaac father and Beth father were brothers. They were brothers. And Beth had a daughter who Isaac married. So yes, Isaac pretty much married his cousin daughter. You're probably wondering, Isaac must have been way older than Rebecca, right? Not exactly. Here's one thing you gotta remember. Abraham and Sarah, it's not like they had kids in their 20s, 30s, or even 40s. Abraham was like 100 years old, and Sarah was 90 when they had Isaac. So Isaac's cousin Bethuel, he could have been like way older than Isaac. He might even had, who knows, Rebecca could have been older than Isaac. We don't know. Or they could have been the same age. It never said how old Rebecca was in the Bible. So I'm just going to assume that Isaac and Rebecca were around the same age. I mean, hey, one of my cousins do have a kid that's only like 5 or 6 years younger than me. So it's not a stretch to say that maybe these two were close to the same age. But of course, Rebecca and Isaac, we're just going to put them together. because they had a kid together. So Rebecca and Isaac had a kid. Jacob and Esau, actually. By the way, Esau also had a kid with his... He had a kid with his cousin, actually, somewhere about it. Esau married, like, his uncle's daughter. I don't have it written on here, but his name was Ishmael. And Esau did have a kid with Ishmael's daughter. But anyway, back to Jacob. So, as you noticed, Jacob and Rebecca are pretty much in the same lineage. How does this happen? Their grandfathers, Abraham and Nahor, were brothers. So you know what this means? They were second cousins. So Jacob would have had more than 50% of his mother's DNA. So it would have been pretty interesting if they had ancestry back then. It would have been crazy. So some of my second cousins, I share like around 2%, 5% of their DNA. I had like one second cousin who I only shared like 25 centimorgans, which is pretty low actually. But she was my half second cousin. However, I did share more DNA with some of my third cousins than her, so it's weird, man. But anyway, Jacob would have had more than 50% of his mother's DNA if they were like second cousins. Also, he never referred to his mom as his cousin, I imagine. I imagine he always referred to his mom as his mom. But Jacob did something. He went to his uncle's house, his mother's brother, Laban. And these two are his sisters. Not sisters, well, I'm saying sisters. These two were sisters. And they were Jacob's cousins. So yeah, Jacob pretty much married two sisters that happened to be his cousins. Again, there's nowhere in the Bible that said that there was no Bible back then for them to follow. So Jacob wasn't really doing anything wrong. So I'm not quite sure how many kids they had exactly. Jacob had 12 kids, but they didn't all come from Rachel and Leah. Two of the kids, I'm just going to name two of them, Joseph and Judah. I guess I could put them down here, because Leah was Judah's mother. And this is where Jesus came from. And Rachel was Joseph's mother. So guess what? It would have been pretty interesting with these two, because their mothers were sisters. So they would have been half brothers and cousins at the same time. They would have been first cousins and half brothers. So they would have shared more DNA than a normal half brothers would have. They probably would have shared about as much DNA as full brothers when you think about it. Because Rachel and Leah wasn't just their aunt. Like, let's use Judah for example. Judah could be like, Rachel is not my cousin. She's my, I gotta put L right there. Judah could be like, Rachel's my aunt, not my cousin. And somebody could be like, oh, actually she is your cousin. she's your dad's cousin, so. And Judah would be like, well, I guess she is my cousin. Guess my aunt is my cousin, is she? Yeah, it would have been crazy. So Leah also would have been Joseph's aunt and her cousin too. His cousin too. So yeah, it's just weird. And let's not forget Jacob would have also been all 12 of his kids' third cousin. So yes, every single kid he had with Rachel and Leah, they would have been his third cousins. Because this guy up here, he would have been like their great-great-grandfather. Because Rachel. So so Jacob and Rebecca had the same great-grandfather. But on this side, if you put them on this side, like Jacob kids on, so Jacob kids on their father's side, Terah would have been like their great-great-grandfather. But of course, when we put Jacob on this side, on Bethuel's side, Rebecca's side, that would also been his great-great-grandfather. So yes, Jacob kids were also his cousin. They would have been like third cousins, of course. So they probably would have. They actually would have had more than 50% of his DNA too. So it would have been pretty crazy. It was crazy for his kids too, because like I said, on one side of the family, Rachel and Leah, they would have been his cousins. On his mom's side, they are his first cousins. On his dad's side, let's put this together now. So Rebecca and Laban, Laban would also have been Jacob's second cousin. Which means Rachel and Leah would have been Jacob's second cousin once removed. So yes, there was a lot of incest going on with Terah. I guess cousins wouldn't have been as bad though. But the thing is, Rachel and Leah was Jacob's cousin on more than one family line. So it is crazy, guys. I guess Joseph, he broke it. He broke the cycle. He married an Egyptian woman and had kids with her. So his wife wasn't blood related. And there's no evidence in the Bible that any of Jacob's kids had kids with his cousins. I mean, it's possible some of Jacob's kids could have married some of Esau's daughters. It is possible. But there's no evidence in the Bible to point that out. So I just want to do this video. I just thought it was interesting. Point out how Jacob's more related to his family than you think. Sarah and Abraham, they would have been Jacob's grandparents. So Jacob would have been Sarah and Abraham's grandson and their grandnephew. Since Sarah and Abraham were brother and sister. So Jacob would have shared more than 25% of his DNA with his grandparents. He would have shared more than 12% of his DNA with Terah. So it's pretty interesting. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. If there's anything in the Bible you want me to go over, just let me know. Or if there's any topics you want me to go over that's not in the Bible. You just have questions. Like, is this all right for a Christian to just leave comments down here? Who knows, I may do a video over it. But that being said, have a good day. Bye for now.